Hi guys, welcome to another Barb Stamps video. Today's video, we're going to work on this card here, which uses the Daisy Delight stamp set and the coordinating Daisy Punch. These are sold as a bundle in our new catalog as of June 1st. And we're also going to use some copper embossing powder and our new copper, what's this called? Copper trim, 1/4 inch copper trim. So let's get started here. We are using Night of Navy as our kind of main color here. Get some of this stuff out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to work on is the daisy itself. So I'm going to take a piece of Whisper White and my daisy stamp and my Night of Navy ink pad. So I'll open that up. Gently tap, tap, tap. And stamp that a couple times onto this piece of paper. And I am stamping it so that one of the petals is straight down to the bottom of the cardstock rather than if I turned it at an angle where the two petals together would be down. Does that even make sense? I hope so. Because the punch is set up that it's petals straight down, so that when I slide this paper into my punch, I can just line it up really easily and get that guy out of there. Come in again for my second daisy and line that up and pop that right out. Well, I have my ink pad and my stamp out. This is going to be for the inside of the card. And so I do want to stamp a daisy in here. I need a scratch paper because I don't want the entire daisy on there. I kind of just want to have a little bit of the daisy, so it's just down there in the corner like so. Set these two things aside. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and put these together. I'm just going to add these together. Now, you can use dimensionals if you want. You don't have to. I'm going to go ahead and just put one dimensional right there in the middle. Press on it to get the backing paper to release. And then just come kind of straight down on top of it and line it up just like so. So that is now ready. We'll move that over. We'll move the inside of the card over. I do have, can you see that on there? I used the Brick Wall Textured Impressions Embossing folder on this layer back here. So I'm going to go do that with my Big Shot and I'll be right back. Alright, I've got that done, and I did leave some space down here at the bottom. So when I put it into the folder, well, let me get the folder. When I put it into the folder, I had some of it hanging out the bottom. So I ran it through like this. So it only embossed like the top 3/4 of my piece of cardstock. So with this piece here, I'm going to add a little bit of that ribbon across to act as a divider. So I'm just going to kind of measure out how much I need, about like so. And then we'll add some snail to the back where we're going to wrap it around, so that it has something to stick to. And this stuff is really cool. It's fairly thin. I mean, you can almost see through it. I'm not sure if you guys can tell that, but you can almost see through it, except that when you put it onto your project, it does appear to be solid, or not see-through. Not translucent, I guess, or transparent. Okay. Oh, you know what? I can't do that yet. Good grief. I've got to emboss on this with some copper embossing powder, so if that's not going to work, I'll probably burn my ribbon. But since I screwed that up, sort of, and I do have adhesive on the back of this, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat so that when I lay this down to stamp on it, it doesn't stick to my paper and make a big mess. Let me get my stamp. Okay, I've got my thank you stamp, and that does come in the stamp set. I love the font on this. We're going to use that. We've got some Versamark ink. We've also got an embossing buddy. I'm going to add a little bit of that to the bottom here to prevent a bunch of the powder from sticking where I don't necessarily want it. Here's my Versamark pad. You can tell it's really clean, although I have seen some worse ones than this, so this one really isn't too bad. Ink that up, and then I'm just going to kind of stamp it down here towards the bottom of the card underneath the brick that I did on that. Bring that up. Bring in some sort of a tray to catch your excess powder. Sprinkle that. I usually like to do it twice, a couple times, even sometimes more than that. You can just continue to pick up powder And then I usually give it a flick, check it to make sure that it doesn't have any stragglers, which I don't think it does. I'm going to bring in my heat tool, cover up my ink pad, and we'll get this melted for you. Ooh, I can tell you that that never gets boring. I love watching embossing powder melt. Am I the only one? I hope not. I just think it's the coolest thing to watch it melt. And Stampin' Up! Really does have nice embossing powder. All right. So we have that done. I also need to emboss some leaves. So I've got a piece of copper foil sheet here. And I've got the little leaf from the stamp set. Bring in the Versamark pad again. And I need 3 leaves. And now when you're stamping Versamark on foil sheets, be careful because foil sheets are slick and you can easily, your stamp can easily slide around and can kind of make a mess. So we're just going to use the powder that was left in the tray. Again, we'll just kind of scoop it up, covering the leaves completely. Flick off the excess, and now we'll heat set that. Okay, here's my leaves, and I'm going to cut these out. So I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch me cut because it's kind of boring. Actually, if you notice when I'm cutting, I'm not really moving my scissor hand except to open and close the scissors. I'm using my other hand to rotate the paper, and I'm just opening and closing my blade. Okay, so there's one leaf. I'll quickly do those other 2 and I'll be right back. Okay, we've got the leaves done. Now we can put the ribbon back on. Bring the ribbon back in, line it up where we wanted it, press it onto the snail adhesive that's on the back of this layer. Okay, now this layer is going to go on a slightly larger layer of Whisper White. And because I used an embossing folder on this layer, I am going to adhere it with multi-purpose liquid glue. I just find that if something's embossed, it sticks better if you use the liquid glue. And like I said, this is just barely larger than my Night of Navy layer. And my eyeballs are terrible, so I'm hoping that I got that on there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm just going to come to the back, give that a nice press, and there, it's stuck on there. Great. Okay. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I need a flower middle. We need some Night of Navy cardstock. Right, we've heat set those. I'm just going to use my 1/2-inch circle punch to crop those. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid glue to that flower, a little bit of liquid glue to that flower, and we'll add the copper embossed flower middles to the center of the flowers. Make sure they're centered. And that looks good. Oh, good Lord, I need to put some of this stuff away. I am very klutzy, and it scares me to no end having all this stuff laying around. Okay, I think we're going to be good now. The leaves, we need to attach those. I'm going to go ahead and attach the flower, and I'm just going to put the adhesive just in the center, the back center of the flower, and lay that on my card this way. I can add a little bit of adhesive to the back of the leaves, and then I can just slide them under the petals of the flower and just get them where I want them to go. Plus, if the flower is not completely stuck, it'll just give it a little bit more dimension, which dimension is always a good thing, I think. A little glue on the back of that one. And maybe underneath that Oops, my other flower, my other leaf, I didn't get that stuck down very well. Okay. Get that in there. Those two, press those down. Get a good stick. Bring in our card base. This is 4.5 or 4.25, excuse me, by 11. Hopefully you just didn't see my head. I had to get down a little bit so I can make sure that I was folding it even. Because we've talked about this numerous times. I have really bad eyes. All right. Get some liquid glue on the back of that. Get that pressed onto the front of the card. Oops, I think I didn't get that quite centered. Yowza. Okay. Then our layer on the inside, we could just use some snail on this. It's not been embossed. Should go really well. Now when I put inside panels into cards, I like to have them be even on all three sides. I don't necessarily worry about the fold, but I do like to have the two sides and the bottom even. And that's because when somebody opens up the card, I want it to be even on all three sides. Up here, I don't think anybody's really going to notice because there's so much more blue, but on the sides there isn't, so I try to make sure all three sides are really good. Okay, that's the card. Thumbs up if you like the video, please. I always love to see that. I also love comments or suggestions, questions, anything you may need to ask me. Please put that in the comment section below. I do try to go through all my comments once or twice a week, answering any questions that you may have. Also, if you'd like to purchase any of the items that I use to make this card, do so at shoppingwithbarb.com. And as always, use my monthly host code. I post that on my blog every month. It gets you free stuff, so please use it. And thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.